Well, hello, everybody. I'm glad that you've joined me again today. And welcome back to this week's Bible study in the Old Testament book of Nehemiah, and the lesson that is titled, Nehemiah Asked to Return Home. And so the lesson focus this week is that God hears our prayers. Yesterday, we talked about how Nehemiah was an Israelite who was living in Susa, working as a cupbearer to King Artaxerxes. And Nehemiah had learned from his brother and some visitors that Jerusalem was in great distress and in bad shape, really. And so the wall of Jerusalem was broken down. Its gates were burned. And so Nehemiah prays to God. He prays and he fasts, and he's in mourning for 4 months and asks God for a favor as he goes before the king. So we'll pick up today in Nehemiah chapter 2, and we'll look at verses 1 through 8. And it came about in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, that wine was before him. And I took up the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. So the king said to me, Why is your face sad, though you are not sick? This is nothing but sadness of heart. Then I was very much afraid. I said to the king, Let the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my father's tombs, lies desolate, and its gates have been consumed by fire? Then the king said to me, What would you request? So I prayed to the God of heaven. I said to the king, If it please the king, and if your servant has found favor before you, send me to Judah, to the city of my father's tombs, that I may rebuild it. Then the king said to me, the queen sitting beside him, How long will your journey be, and when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I gave him a definite time. And I said to the king, If it please the king, let letters be given me for the governors of the provinces beyond the river, that they may allow me to pass through until I come to Judah. And a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the fortress which is by the temple, for the wall of the city, and for the house to which I will go. And the king granted them to me, because the good hand of my God was on me. Okay, so 4 months had passed by from the time that Nehemiah had learned from his brother about the state of Jerusalem until he was before the king, getting ready to ask him for his favor. That's 4 months of praying and mourning, and it had taken a physical toll on Nehemiah, and the king could see that something was wrong. So when he was in the king's presence, the king immediately noticed. The scripture tells us that the king asked Nehemiah, Why is your face sad, though you are not sick? This is nothing but sadness of heart. And Nehemiah was very much afraid. He was afraid because being sad before the king was an offense. He could be in serious trouble or even killed for being sad before the king. God does grant Nehemiah favor. He grants the compassion that he was praying for from King Artaxerxes. And the king asked Nehemiah, What is it that you request? And here's the part that I love. It's called the lightning fast prayer. Nehemiah prays in that instant a lightning fast prayer before requesting to go and rebuild the city. Do you ever do that? I know that I do. And God hears our prayers, even the lightning fast ones like that. Praying is talking to God, it's listening to God. We need to pray regularly, but we don't always have time in certain circumstances. We may only have a split second to talk with God. It's good to know that he still hears us. The book of Nehemiah tells of God's faithfulness to complete his work among his people. The king did grant Nehemiah's request because the scripture says that the good hand of God was on Nehemiah. He even got the letters that he needed for the provinces and for the king's forest. Next time we'll take a look as Nehemiah heads towards Jerusalem. I'll see you soon, and God bless.